Now, one of the things I want to reiterate from what we were saying earlier with, this goes along with like instant recall and spaced reinforcement, which is also teach by asking. If I have already taught Vincent, how to do, say, like a jab reverse and a front kick, and I know where his arms should be, so have your hands up, but, people drift. He starts doing stuff like this where his elbows really start going out. So, hey, Vincent, we want to make sure that we keep our elbows in so we can protect our ribs, all right? So why do you want to keep those elbows in?
To protect our ribs.
Great, let's put them down and keep those hands up. Now we start repping, and then what happens, his arms start going up more and more. Now, I could say, Vincent, put your elbows down. All right, we keep going, they drift up and up and up. Vincent, put the elbows down. Now he's kind of relying on an external source to tell him to do that. But instead, we want to turn this intrinsic, so the elbows start going out. Hey, Vincent, why do we want to keep, or how do you protect your ribs?
Elbows.
Very good, all right? Or he starts drifting off that way. Vincent, where should your eyes be?
Forward.
Very good, all right? He starts dropping his hands. Vincent, where should those hands be?
Up.
Very good. So again, I'm trying to make it intrinsic so he can answer his own problem at some point. Fun one, difficult situations. These can be difficult situations with kids or adults. I have literally had to kick people out, somewhat literally. I have kicked people out of the dojo before, unfortunately both kids and adults, for when we couldn't handle a difficult situation and it escalated too far. But ideally, we should be having lots of conversations before it gets to the point of having to make somebody leave the dojo. When we're looking at difficult situations, maybe somebody disrupting class, number one, non-judgmental observation. There's a really great book I recommend for everyone. It's called Switch, How to Make Change When Change is Hard. And there's a phrase that's reiterated a couple different ways, and one of the ways it says, like, what seems like defiance is lack of clarification, or what seems like maliciousness is frustration. So sometimes things manifest in a different way. Maybe Vincent here is having a really hard time figuring out a technique, and it's sort of manifesting in him like poking Lizzie over and over again, or him just falling down. So we have to look at situations as non-judgmental as we can, and we have to make sure that we're getting a calm response. There's a great author, a psychologist, humanitarian, Viktor Frankl. In his book, Man's Search for Meaning, he talks about there's a space in between stimulus and response, and that space is where we get the opportunity to find who we are. And we all do it. Something happens, you're rah, and you react to it. When what we should be doing is taking a beat. Sometimes I do it in the form of, and then we respond to it. All right, we listen and validate. All right, another way of saying that is active listening. Another great tip I heard for this one day was like get down on their level. All right, so when we talk about observing, I know this is really funny, isn't it? When we talk about observing, like, hey Vincent, I noticed you keep falling down in class. You have to think about how that really helps, how that moves things forward. Can you tell me why you keep falling down?
Well,
just
Julia's being mean to me.
Okay, all right, I hear you. So I'm not going to justify the actions of whatever he's doing necessarily, but I am going to listen to his concern, right? I'm trying to use this moment for a connection. Now, let's be clear. If I'm alone running a class of 10, 15, 20 kids, I can't sit here and have this conversation with you. That's why assistants come into play, which we'll get into in a few minutes. But when I have the opportunity, and sometimes it has to be after class, like, hey, I see this thing has happened. Can you tell me what's going on with that? I'm going to get down his level. Let's talk about what's going on. All right, I'm going to hear it. I want to hear what he has to say. And it's not always what we think it is, right? Sometimes they're just having frustrations or issues in the class. Maybe they just really had a long day, and they just need to kind of get that out. Like, okay, I hear you. You know what? I'll talk to Julia, but what I really need you to do is stand up and focus like that. Can you be like a model in the class? Can you show everybody what good's supposed to look like? Yeah, all right, let's work on this. And then set those expectations. I didn't do this one, but hey, when we come back, well, actually, I kind of did. When you come back, let's go ahead and make sure we're standing up. Let's make sure we're modeling class. And I've said this to kids, like, hey, if you're going to be doing this all through class, I can't have you here. You're going to have to sit up the whole time. Okay? This is not the only way to deal with all these situations. There's multiple ways to deal with it, but we can't just think like Vincent's being a bad kid, so I'm going to kick him out of the class. Even me, I'll admit, as a dad and a martial artist, these are not always my first go-tos. And I do have to sometimes take that breath. Non-judgmental observation. Hey, I noticed this thing that's happening. What's going on with that? After we take a breath on it. I'm going to listen to what he has to say. Hey, I noticed this thing going on, you know, and you notice you keep disrupting or poking people. Can you tell me about that? I understand what you're saying, and these are the expectations in class, and I'll take care of this thing. I'll help you with whatever you need, but I need you to do this. I have had adults on occasion disrupt class. It's a great question. Adults, it kind of manifests a little bit differently. Sometimes in class, remember there was somebody a while back during class who just, and this person ended up not coming back. But when I see that kind of behavior, or I can sense that somebody's getting really frustrated, like, hey, what's going on? What do you got going on? I'll pull them off the side and have a quick little chat. Now, let me be clear, like the difference between being disruptive and somebody just kind of not paying attention. Like if I'm in a group of like 30 kids right here, and somebody's just over here, whatever, I want to keep them on it, but I'm not going to stop class to address that. Now, if this kid is like shoving everybody beside him, you know, like keep taking the reps, and then I'm going to come over here and pull you aside, right? So I handle just sort of, you know, finger up the nose, not paying attention differently than someone actually being disruptive. Versus even an adult who I can tell something's going on with, and we just need to go have a conversation. But I will still use the same tools: non-judgmental observation, calm response, listen, validate, set expectation. Time, we're going to go ahead and move on. Again, I want you to get in groups of 3. All right, one person's teaching, one is the disruptor. All right, and just have a quick little conversation thinking about non-judgmental observation, calm response, listen, validate, set expectations.